My wife and I celebrated our 34th wedding anniversary in Leavenworth, Washington. While we were looking around through all of the various shops, I found this item. I thought I would buy it and take a shot at making my own cast. With the item being fairly small, I decided to go with my smallest flask, the flask that was included with the furnace kit I originally purchased just over 2 years ago. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. There's nothing wrong with having plenty of molding room because of the cavity in the back of the cast iron bottle opener. I decided to mold this up in the same way I molded my aluminum ingot mold project. Look for my mistake as I'm ramming up this sand. Had I used a bigger flask, I would not have made this mistake. In fact, I was completely unaware of my mistake until I poured the metal. And that mold filled up too fast. Yeah, it hit me that I had failed to cut my gate. If I have the room in my flasks, I use my 3D printed gates, and I never forget to gate my molds. If I don't use my 3D prints, it's a pretty good bet that I'm going to forget to cut my gates. And that's why I made those 3D printed gates in the first place. Excuse me. So, after a much-needed timeout to come down from my seething anger and self-loathing from making such a boneheaded mistake, I went ahead and rammed up and poured my second attempt. Because I've got certain attitude problems, I insisted on ramming everything up the same way as I did on my first attempt, with a gate, of course, just to prove that I could do it in that small flask. Now, before anyone gets too judgmental here, thinking a guy in his mid-50s should react better, just know that God has taken me a long way over the course of my walk with Christ. In my younger years, a shed full of power tools and lots of pieces of metal lying around would have resulted in a lot of damage. Nothing was smashed or broken in this incident. I did not say any bad words out loud. I just needed some time to calm down and reflect because no one was around. I think the process went well. There wasn't anyone around me to give me critical feedback or constructive criticism of what I did wrong or how I needed to deal with it. All right, so let's get this thing cleaned up. I didn't want to just break the bottle opener from the gate runner sprue because I've made that mistake before. I needed to find a way to cut it off cleanly. Using the small flask, I didn't really give myself any room to do this work. Again, my attitude problems often get me into trouble. Eventually, though, I found a way to do this without damaging the bottle opener. After liberating the bottle opener, I needed to clean up the small amount of flashing that I had, and I needed to carve out that metal from inside the opener itself. Next, I needed to hit the bottle opener with a wire brush to give it some shine before trying it out to make sure that this would actually open up a bottle. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume, among the powers of the earth, the separate and equal situation in which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, which among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such a form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer which evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evidence a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the pattern sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government.